Can we return to the self? What do you see when you look at yourself? What do you see when you look at the earth? What about a tree, a river, a crow? Can you look at yourself as being of the earth and as the earth? What is your relationship to what you see? Can you also feel it? Can you communicate with it? Can you hear the wisdom shared? Can you remember the experience, the interconnectedness of it all? Not just of the humans, but of our animal kin, of our plants, of the world that surrounds us, the living world that lives and breathes as we breathe. And ultimately, can we return to the self? The self that is in relation with the non-human world. Can we become the self that includes the waters, the animals, the bugs, all of our ecosystems, Gaia at large, remembering that all is in relation. And when we forget that, our perception of life, our perception of ourselves, and our perception of the earth changes. Ecopsychology offers us the perceptions and the relationships that we have with ourselves and the natural world in which we're living within. How we intimately relate, how our experience is the same. It's where our inner voice and our perceptions and our ideas of ourselves are met with the spirit of Mother Earth. We begin to heal through the earth. The earth begins to heal through us. We deepen into a reciprocity. We sense the purpose and belonging that we have as children of Gaia. This framework of ecopsychology is really a return to indigenous wisdoms based on working with the land, working with the spirit, and through the relationships of reciprocity. Many indigenous from various cultures perform rituals and ceremonies as a form of deep communication and prayer and reciprocity to the other than human world. These rituals are rooted in belief, in culture, in relationship. All is in relation to spirit, the earth, the plants, the animal guardians, the ancestors, the directions, the elements, the celestial bodies. The indigenous honor the self in rites of passage and live in harmony with the natural world. In modern society, through the lens of ecology and psychology, we can see an interplay of how ecopsychology seeks to heal the psyche and the separation that has been plaguing modern society, to bring wholeness and interconnectedness within ourselves and the living world around us. When we're in relationship and communication with the natural world, we can allow for an awakening of the self, along with the dormant unconscious that lives within our ecosystems. Rozak mentions an ecological unconscious lies at the core of the psyche, there to be drawn upon as a resource for restoring us to environmental harmony. Rozak says, I have been calling ecopsychology new, but in fact its sources are old enough to be called aboriginal. Once upon a time, all psychology was ecopsychology. the oldest healers in the world, the people our society called witch doctors, knew no other way to heal than to work within the context of environmental reciprocity. As for myself, it's always been the earth that's brought me back to my body. It's been the water, the trees, the wind, the stars, the sacred fires that have reminded me that I'm not alone. And beyond that, I'm home. During my awakening, I came out of a decade-long depression. It was through hiking and experiencing the natural world for what felt like the first time that I started to become alive again. I was in the redwoods and the forest started to communicate with me. The weather systems, hail, rain, lightning, were all responding to my feelings, my emotions, my thoughts, my words. The weather was communicating with me so loud that I could no longer be asleep to her aliveness, to her wholeness. And somehow, I was part of that wholeness. I moved to Mexico in January of 2021. What happened in Mexico, what I am still experiencing in Mexico, is that I was plugged into the earth. I was plugged into the earth in a way that I didn't even know was possible. I descended into my body. I arrived, became present. I started going to sweat lodges and working with cacao, visiting archaeological zones, and eventually other plant medicines came into my path of healing and learning. I went to sweat lodges with Lakota elders and I participated in indigenous Mexica dances. The way these indigenous practices work with the elements and the fire, the stones, the water, herbs, the earth, chants and prayer and dance and music, it brought a healing and a connection that I didn't have access to before. I was able to heal a lot of my family and ancestral relations through sweat lodge and plant medicine ceremonies. And that way of healing really came through the earth, through the plants, and through the shamans and the wisdom keepers, the elders of the different traditions I've sat with. Each elder channeled messages from the earth. They gave offerings and spoke to the land. They spoke to their ancestors and the guardians of the land. They work with fire and smoke, tobacco, to facilitate deep healing and communication with the natural world. I've got to experience glimpses of oneness through these ancient relationships. And in turn, I often see that related and echoed in the environments and the people around me. My somatic experience in all of this was a huge part of my awakening to the earth. Instead of living and making all of my decisions and observations through my head, my body and my heart began to speak to me. I felt the pulse of the energy from the jungle and the trees. I felt them in my feet, in my body, in my heart. I felt the way the sound of water coursed through my body. I can smell and hear shifts in the land and the energy around me. I made embodied decisions that were in harmony with the land and my heart. I started listening to my dreams more. I started talking to the land and the birds and listening for their response. I was pulsing with life force energy like I never had before. My body felt ecstatic, which also means that I could become overstimulated very easily when I'm not in harmony with myself in the natural world. So I've learned for my optimal mental health and clarity, I need to go for a swim or be immersed in nature once a week. It doesn't take long to dissolve and decompose back into the earth, back into the self. So to circle back to environmental philosophy and ecopsychology, I've begun to see this healing and ceremonial work in a larger view of ecological perception. I feel the purpose and the interconnectedness that this academia plays, and that this framework is really needed in Western psychology and healing modalities, because many of us have been disconnected from our mother for many generations. Kimmerer speaks of the worldviews that color our perceptions of the earth. Kimmerer shares of the Western worldview being materialistic, carrying the lens of ecosystem services and natural resources, while traditional indigenous philosophy carries the understanding that the natural world is inhibited by non-human relatives that sustain us and act with a set of relationships and responsibilities. From the Western worldview, we don't recognize or see ourselves as the earth and have forgotten our connection to the land and the spirit with consumerism, entertainment, and numbing down of our ultrasensory abilities that really do allow us to hear and communicate with the natural world. We've created a culture and a society that is disconnected from the spirit and harmony within all beings and plants and critters within the ecosystems. Many people in Western societies are distracted, and they're looking for a connection outside of self. Many are depressed, anxious, suffering from traumas and addictions, have poor self-images and relationships to food, and are simply just going through life to get by. Khan shares that our need to consume is a serious signal of our culture's disconnection from the earth. Because we're cut off from our roots, we have forgotten how to hunt and gather up its treasures, either concretely or imaginatively. When we look at traditional indigenous philosophy and relationships, I think of shamanism. And Gray explains the worldview of shamanism is that health equals balanced relationship with all living things. When someone is ill, shamanism attempts to restore power to them by putting them back in harmony with life. And so shamans and medicine men and women and witch doctors, curanderos, and other traditional healers of various plants, meditations, drums, chanting, dances, divination work, dream work. These are all methods of entering altered states of consciousness for retrieving the soul and for healing. The shaman is a bridge between the physical earth and the spirit realm. In my journey with plant medicine, I felt and perceived the way that these plants weave their consciousness into my body, into my mind. They interrupt normal thought patterns and loops during ceremony, while revealing and sharing relationships we have to life and to our inner landscape, to our vision and beyond. This interruption of the habitual mental and emotional pathways can facilitate deep healing and soul remembrance that we can then integrate into our relationships and with the earth and all of our relations. The true ceremony begins when we leave the ceremony. The ceremony is life, and life is our ceremony. And in this life, in this natural world, we're constantly receiving signals from animals and plants as they're all signaling each other through biosymbiotics. The world is always communicating with us. It's best if we're listening and taking as many perspectives as possible in this relationship with self. So can we return to the self that is in relationship with the non-human world, the self that encompasses it all? I believe ecopsychology provides this pathway and idea that we can overcome our disconnection to self, our animal and plant kin, humanity, Mother Earth, and the spirit world through our perceptions and relationships of life within and among the earth. We can truly live in harmony with our own psyches and this beautiful planet that we live and we breathe within.